Hey everyone, Reed here with Big Strong Book, author of Course of 1,000, now available on Amazon. And today I'm going to be talking about Nightside the Long Sun by Gene Wolfe. Now this is the first book collected in this great two-volume edition from Orb Press or Orb. Nightside the Long Sun is the first volume in Gene Wolfe's Book of the Long Sun tetralogy. The books being Nightside, Lake of the Long Sun, Call Day of the Long Sun, and Exodus from the Long Sun. So 4 books that take place pretty much within the same universe as Book of the New Sun. And this story in particular, from what I've heard, is continued in Book of the Book of the Short Sun, which is more of a direct sequel to this series. Of course, this doesn't have, or at least Nightside of the Long Sun did not have that many links or explicit links and ties to Book of the New Sun. Pretty much none whatsoever, as far as I can tell. There might be some in there, kind of, sprinkled throughout the narrative, as Gene Wolfe is wont to do, but it wasn't obvious for a first-time reader of this like myself. So, before we jump in here, I will just say I am glad that I knew going into this that it was not going to be anywhere near as close in terms of a narrative style to Book of the New Sun. This is not, or ostensibly not, first person. It is third person, primarily just staying with the perspective of the protagonist, Patera Silk, even though it does some other characters. I think of Dr. Crane, maybe a couple, and I'm blanking on his name right now. Let me look. But Blood's assistant, whatever his name, Musk. There we go. So we have Musk, we have Blood, or I don't think it ever goes to Blood's perspective, but yeah, just a few characters, primarily with Patera Silk. Now, not only is this, in terms of the general prose structure and perspective, not only is that aspect of it different than Book of the New Sun, but this is totally different in terms of character, the kind of thrust of the core of the narrative, and the pacing and the action that unfolds within Nightside the Long Sun. Because and this is what I'm sure will, for some people, if they haven't read Book of the New Sun, if they're not familiar with Gene Wolfe, I would not recommend starting with this. This is, I don't know, for readers of that persuasion, it's too, go with Book of the New Sun first, stick with it, and then get to this. And it's also worth noting, and you will soon discover this, even just a couple of chapters into this book, and it will become more and more evident as the narrative progresses. The key to reading Nightside the Long Sun: patience. Patience, sit back, and enjoy the ride. It's not a quick one. It's one that kind of weaves this big tapestry, but it's a tapestry of just one character doing simple things. On the surface, when it comes to what happens in Nightside the Long Sun, I could say everything that happens in this book within like 3 sentences. On paper, not that much happens. The work is in building the characters. Of course, I think similar to Book of the New Sun, which, you read Shadow of the Torturer. And Shadow of the Torturer, yes, it is its own book, but it's very much so just the first part of a congruent, cohesive 4-part narrative. If Book of the New Sun was published as one 1,000-page book, it would make sense, because the story does not, it goes seamlessly from one part to the other, and there's not a big like narrative climax in Shadow of the Torturer. There are little climactic moments. This, it has maybe a little moment at the end that you could kind of term as climactic, or where the story changes. But again, the scope with Nightside the Long Sun is very small. It's extremely small, with hints of where this might go. I'm very curious to see where this will go, and I did like Nightside the Long Sun. It's just kind of how I was with Shadow of the Torturer and Claw of the Conciliator. I will be more reserved in my praise because this is just part one of this is merely the first 265 pages of a 1,300 page story. So it's like reading a book like that when you're not even a fourth of the way through. It's reviewing a book when you're not even a fourth of the way through. In terms of the general like 5-point narrative arc, where you have the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the denouement, this is pretty much all exposition and a tiny bit of rising action, and that's it. So this book won't be for everybody, but I am intrigued, and I love the character of Silk. I just have to say that he's a wonderful character, and I can't wait to spend 3 more books really diving into it. So now we'll get into a little bit about what this book is about. So Patera Silk, Patera kind of meaning father in a similar to the Roman Catholic Church, obviously, and I've touched on this in many other Gene Wolfe videos. Gene Wolfe was a devout Catholic. Catholic themes permeate through almost all of his works. Very explicitly within this, you have Patera Silk, who is a 23-year-old priest, and also called an augur, or instead of a priest, called an augur, but goes by the title Patera. So I'll refer to him as Silk because his name is Silk. Preceded by his mentor, or the person that he took over, Patera Pike. Patera Pike is mentioned. And then you have these borderline, they're not androids, but they're almost like hybrid human androids. At least I got that impression from just the descriptions of them, because even Silk, in his youth and maybe a little bit in his naivety, just views them as these kind of old, wise women. The Mayteras, Maytera Rose, Maytera Marble, and I know that there's a third one that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but he kind of presides over, in the simplest terms, there's a specific name for it, which I'll get to here. It's called a mantion, a church, a parish, and their mantion, their parish, they're in dire times. Their cash flow, their donations, the money that they've been getting, isn't that great. And so Silk, throughout this entire narrative, his actions are dictated through a sense of urgency, but an urgency that is seen through the lens of him having a divine purpose, or what he thinks is a divine purpose. That is evident from the first line of the book, which I'll just read here. Enlightenment came to Patera Silk on the ball court. Nothing could ever be the same after that. What enlightenment means. For just a moment, Silk kind of sees everything. I think he sees the whole history of the Mantion. He sees Patera Pike praying. He sees, it says, lights beneath everyone's feet, like cities low in the night sky. He sees proud houses on the Palatine. Maytera Marble playing with the girls in Maytera Mint, wishing she dared. Old Maytera Rose praying alone, praying to scalding Scylla in her palace under Lake Limna. Feather falling. Feather is one of the children that Silk mentors. Not so lightly as his name implied, shoved aside by Horn, another child, yet not yet quite prone on the crumbling shiprock blocks. though shiprock was supposed to last until the end of the whirl. The whirl being this kind of spaceshipy place that they all live on. I kind of got that spoiled for me. I don't know how much of a spoiler that is. That they're kind of on a big generation ship. Viron in the lake. Viron being the name of the, whether it's a city state, I'm not sure, but the region that they live in. Viron in the lake. Crops withering in the field, and this is all in a moment, in a flash, what Silk sees. Crops withering in the fields, the dying fig in the open empty sky, all this and much else besides, lovely and appalling, blood red and living green, yellow, blue, white, and velvet black, with minglings of other colors and of colors he had never known. I love that. I mean, so much of this, Gene Wolfe, Gene Wolfe, the prose stylist, is at his best display in Nightside the Long Sun, and that is probably the biggest compliment, in addition to the character work with Silk, the biggest compliment I can pay to this book. So, Silk gets enlightened. He feels that he needs to then commune with a god. And now within their Mantion, there's this space called, I think called the window. And if they do a sacrifice and they go through kind of a, not a catechesis, but a liturgical, methodical mass. I mean, you can directly tie it to the Catholic Mass, or that's its parallel to what we can understand in our own world. And so he wants to bring about and see this God in the window. Now, is the window a computer screen? Might be. But to have this God appear to him, to explain to him kind of what his purpose is, he thinks that his purpose is to do with something with the God for so long. He has this great purpose. What that purpose is, we don't know. But he soon finds out that his Mantion, his parish, has been sold to this kind of shady underworld figure named, I guess, quite on the nose, Blood. This man Blood has purchased the Mantion, and Silk kind of goes off on this quest to steal back his Mantion, to steal and win back his parish, and what he tries to do, and what so much of this book revolves around. So much of the 265 pages that make up the first half of the Litany of the Long Sun of just the Nightside is he tries to break into Blood's house. His goal as he is doing this is to try and maybe kidnap Blood or threaten him or threaten to kill him if he doesn't sell them back the Mantion. He is a man kind of at this big extreme that he is trying to maneuver through. And that's obviously very, very fascinating. And that's kind of that's the plot of this novel, is just him trying to find a way to get back his Mantion and then start to piece together a little more of what his destiny might be. And while liking the prose, liking the character of Silk as it is developed in this book, honestly, that's about all I can say right now. Not even from like a spoiler standpoint. It's just my opinion of the story. This is not a Nightside the Long Sun. Yes, it is technically a complete book, but it is not a standalone thing. This is like my review of, again, the first 20 or 25% of a very long novel. I don't have the full story. I don't have there isn't a conclusive piece. So this was kind of like, again, as I mentioned, a little bit like how I felt reading Shadow of the Torturer. I liked it. I was intrigued by it. I was excited to see where the whole story would go. It went to great places, of course. And so I have a lot of this. I mean, like Silk must, have faith, practice the faith. I must also, I guess, have faith that that Gene Wolfe will deliver, and that we will go to great places with this. I am, there's a little part of me, I will admit, that's nervous, just because I've heard, once you get to like the third book of the Long Sun, that's when people's patience, I think, starts to wear thin. Other people online I've seen call Book of the Long Sun like a 1,300 page prologue to Book of the Short Sun. Everybody loves Book of the Short Sun, it seems. But that to get to Book of the Short Sun, you have to get through Book of the Long Sun. But again, I like this so far. It's just, maybe this is a 3 out of 5 read for me, because even though it has great prose, great characters, great setup of this world, this is just setup. There's not really any payoff in this. It's just, it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and then it ends. Which, again, if you've read Book of the New Sun, isn't a new feeling where you're just, the book ends and you're like, wait, what? That's it. We were going someplace I was looking forward to. But thankfully, I don't have to wait months and months and months for the next book to come out. The next book is already collected in this volume, so can't wait to get to Lake of the Long Sun, and then eventually to Calde of the Long Sun and Exodus from the Long Sun. So, Nightside the Long Sun or the Book of the Long Sun. If you have read these, let me know what you think. And as always, I will see you guys next time.